After you have folded under the upper edge 1/2 inch all the way around the top and you have pinned it and pressed it, our next thing to do is to take out all these pins. And remember, you didn't have to have a ton to do this particular step because we were going to pin strategically and then press with our iron so we get a nice crisp upper edge. Okay, so now we're going to actually pin the casing. And this time I'm going to have the top of the shorts facing me because I'm going to fold back this way. So I'm actually going to start at the center back, and I can figure that out because here's my back pocket. I also have the fake fly on the front, so I know that's not the back. So what I'm going to do is I have my seam gauge set at 1 1/2 inches, so it's the halfway between the 1 and the 2. And I'm going to start at the center back seam. I want to line up that seam, and I'm going to measure, and I need to be really accurate, measure, and put my pin in perpendicular to the edge. Now, I have to have an opening in the back, so I'm actually going to put 2 pins together right there, and that's going to tell me that that's one of my stopping or starting points. I'm now going to move to the side seam. And again, remember to line up the side of line up your seam line and put in your pin. And this time we are going to have our pins about every 2 fingers apart because we're not going to press this edge in at this point. So I'm going to go halfway between. Again, make sure you measure each time. And then I'm going to go to the middle in the middle. Put one there. You notice I have kind of a little wrinkle right there. I'm going to nudge it a little bit with my fingers to see if I can get that to flatten out because I don't want to have a pucker on the outside. I might actually have to adjust this pin a little bit to make sure that I get that in there correctly. No puckers in my waist. All right, now I have that part there. And then I need to put a couple more pins over here. Again, making sure that I put them every couple of inches. Now, I want an opening in the back, and I'm going to make it about 2 inches wide. And that's probably a little less than 2 inches, but about somewhere between 1 1/2 and 2 inches. And I put a second double pin there. So when I start sewing, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to back stitch. You don't want to do that right on top of this seam. It just makes it a little bit harder to do, so I usually do it one side or the other of that center back seam. But do it at the center back rather than on the side. It'll be a little less noticeable. I think I'm going to pin this part just so you can see what to do with these pockets. So I'm going to go to the center front seam, make sure I line that up even, and measure. Put my pins in perpendicular. We're going to take these pins out as we go. And then I'm going to measure here in the middle. And put my pin in. And then I have all this extra stuff here but with the pocket, and I'm just going to work it and fold it down like it needs to be folded down. It's inside that seam line right there. And see, I have a little extra right in here. I'm going to work that in just by putting, I guess I must have stretched it a little bit at that point. And so I'm going to put a couple extra pins in there to make sure that that lays flat. I don't want to end up getting a pucker. It's a little flatter here, so I don't need quite as many. And then over here again, I'm going to put in maybe 2 more here and then one right under where my thumb is. Okay, well, I'm going to continue pinning this all the way around, and then we'll go to the sewing machine. It'll be time to do the sewing. After you have the whole upper edge of the casing pinned down 1.5 inches, if you want to go to the ironing board and slide it on the board and just press, remember we're not moving back and forth, but just press down over those pins to get some of that fullness out, you certainly can do that. But don't forget to use your press cloth because we don't want to scratch the iron.